Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Frenemies, joined as always by David Swor. I am DJ Cox. And this week we have a special guest, one of our former teammates at Temple University, Dusty Childress. Dusty was around our junior and senior year with us. So, Dusty, welcome to the show, buddy. It's great to have you.
DJ, David, thank you so much for inviting me on here. I'm looking forward to talking baseball with you.
It's going to be a lot of fun tonight, guys. So I just wanted to bring this up before we got going on the podcast. A big shout out to Micah Miller, who was a guest of ours a couple weeks ago. If you notice behind David and I tonight, we have our new logo for our podcast. We love it. We absolutely think he did a great job on it. So hopefully this will help us, become the big time to where we don't have to work anymore and we can just live off the podcast. So tonight's episode is the Kansas City Royals. So this is going to be a lot of fun. This is an intriguing team. The 1985 and 2015 World Series champions are the topic of the show tonight. I'm very excited to talk Royals, and we're also at the end of the show going to get into Dusty's career. He's a former minor leaguer for the New York Mets. So he did a really good job as a left-handed pitcher in the Mets organization, and he's going to talk about that as well when we get to the end of the show. But we are going to begin with the Royals. And David, if you would kick us off here with a 2020 recap of the Kansas City Royals.
So the Kansas City Royals, DJ, are in full rebuild mode. Last year, 26-34 in fourth place, 10 games back from the Twins. Pitching staff was kind of middle of the pack, 4.30 ERA, rotation ERA of 4.70, bullpen ERA of 3.84. They got big years, DJ, from the bullpen. Greg Holland made a comeback. Trevor Rosenthal made a comeback. Jesse Hahn, 0.52 ERA last year out of the bullpen. And so got to see a lot of growth out of some of these young pitchers. Brad Keller had a big year. He's long been a top prospect in the organization. Finally got to see a little bit of him last year with a 2.47 ERA. But the problem, DJ, the hitting did not come around. Jorge Soler, bad year. Witt Merrifield, good year for a lot of people, not a good year for him. Salvador Perez did come back and made comeback player of the year, so that was good to see. Hit 333, established himself as the top catcher in the American League, and you can make an argument for all of baseball. But the hitting was the Achilles heel, 17th in the league in batting average, fifth lowest in on-base percentage, fifth lowest in runs scored. But, overall, DJ, they're a team that's on the rise. We're going to talk about their farm system later. It's packed with guys that are close. And so looking for this year to be a step forward year for them.
Yeah, so a little bit of a kind of a add-on to what you were talking about there. From July 31st to August 5th, Dusty, they dropped 6 in a row to teams from Chicago. So that was hard for them to come back from. In September, they lost 7 in a row. They hit a skid there too. And to their credit, then they pulled off 6 in a row with a win. So they were very streaky. But when you're streaky and you lose so much and you only kind of gain about 6 out of 7, then you're still below 500 there. So they just couldn't overcome it. Like you talked about some of their players there. David Matheny did not come through in his first year as a manager for the Royals, and we'll talk about that later too. I'm not a fan of his. Dusty. Yeah. The former Cardinal manager is not
as someone who lives. As someone who lives between St. Louis and Kansas City, let me tell you, the St. Louis fans were not surprised Matheny did not come through his first year with the Royals.
That is so true, man. So like you said, man, Brad Keller was an absolute stud. How did Matt Harvey get 4 starts for them last year with a 0-3 with 11.57 ERA? I could go out there and get less than 11.57 ERA. Probably not, but still. Matt Harvey is terrible. Hang it up, man. You
DJ,
were like a 2-year wonder. Get out of the league, man.
He got signed again, man. I know this is out of bounds and we're not supposed to be talking about this right now, but the Orioles signed Matt Harvey. What are you doing?
Hopefully it's a minor league deal, a very low minor league deal.
It was a minor league deal, but it came with if he makes the roster, he's making a couple million. So it's good to be Matt Harvey, I guess. You can throw an 11.57 ERA and somebody else still pick you up.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was still thinking he was with the Royals somehow, and I'm glad he's kind of cleared that because I was going to get into that later about how they need to just drop him. Well, apparently they already did, and the Orioles got him, so that's a good pickup on your part. But man, 2 seasons of 4th place in a row. Just not really sure what the Royals are going to do in the future here, but they're starting to put together a team here, guys. So we're going to get into this now. Dusty, first of all, talk about the 2020 season just for a minute here, and what was your perspective as a Royal fan on the 2020 Royals?
Absolutely. Well, with only 6, I guess you could say the good news is they only lost 34 games last year. Bad news is you only play 60. It's not too great. I remember putting it on a Fox Kansas City channel for a lot of those games, and I remember turning it off in the 5th or 6th inning. I think David said it. Really the offense. I mean, Alex Gordon, who's now retired, he was a shell of himself. And actually, he had his best year that he had in 3 years last year, and he still was just very subpar. He was in the 220s the 2 years before that, just a shell of what he was last decade. Witt Merrifield, he did great. He did good, I really think. I mean, leading off and stuff. But after him, a lot of times he'd get 2 or 3 hits in a game, but no, he'd be on first after 3 outs. They just couldn't get him over. They tried to do small ball. They couldn't bunt well. Matheny looked like he just hadn't done the fundamentals. The team just wasn't prepared. And we could say maybe a one-off with COVID this year, not much spring training maybe. We'll see how a full year does this year. But, yeah, very frustrating. The hitting just didn't come through. A lot of young pitchers. I didn't feel like there was much veteran leadership on the staff pitching-wise. I think signing Mike Minor this year was a good move in the offseason, 2019 All-Star from the Rangers. Dayton Moore's been aggressive this offseason. A lot of teams haven't been aggressive in this year. He has. Andrew Benintendi from Red Sox. I think he's going to play a little small ball for him, if he can stay healthy. He had a hurt year last year. Carlos Santana from Cleveland they signed. When he's healthy, he's a good hitter. Give him a little pop. Michael A. Taylor from the Nationals. So they've actually signed 4 guys this offseason who you've actually heard of. I mean, not maybe all-stars, but guys you've heard of before. So I think, I know in the Kansas City papers, the general manager has been really quoted saying, he doesn't want to go through a 5-year rebuild. He has a 2-year plan, add some pieces this year. There's a lot of free agents on the market after this coming up year. I think he's going to try to make some more moves. So I don't know. We'll see. Royals fans always look for hope. They always kind of make it better than the situation really is. But he is going out signing some free agents, which for a lot of years there, that's something the Royals wouldn't do. They just wouldn't go sign people. So we'll see.
Yeah. So David, kind of talking a little bit about what Dusty had just talked about, bringing up the guys that they had just signed. Run through the potential lineup for the Royals this year. Go through the 1 through 9 for us and give us the 5 starters that are going to be leading the Royals in 2021.
So I didn't write these down, so I'm going to go off the top of my head. So you're going to have Carlos Santana at first. At second base, you're going to have Nikki Lopez, possibly platooning. They assigned Alberto, his last name, from the Orioles. Yeah. And so Hanser Alberto. Yep. So he may be platooning at second. They're going to have Mondesi at short. Hunter Dozier is moving across the diamond from first to third, which I think is a really good move. And then they're going to have Merrifield in right, Michael A. Taylor in center, and Soler at the DH. I'm slipping. Benintendi's going to be in left. And so it is going to be an improved lineup. But I want to pump the brakes. Everybody needs to pump the brakes in Royal Land. I want to remind you of a few things, okay? Last year, Benintendi hit 103 in small time, okay? Michael A. Taylor, 196. Carlos Santana, 199. And so I think, like Dusty says, sometimes you put them royal-colored goggles on, and it looks pretty good because those guys have had some good moments and some good careers. And I do think the Royals are going to be better, and we'll get into that later. But I also do worry about some of these guys. Are we going to get 260 hitting Benintendi? Is that really an improvement over Alex Gordon? Are we going to get less than 200 hitting Carlos Santana? It's a valid question, man, because these guys have all had their moments, and they've all had some down years. And so I'm pulling for the Royals to have a better season, but I think we also need to pump the brakes a little bit. I've heard some hilarious predictions from the Royals, including from one of our hosts, Dusty. So he has them in the playoffs. So anyway, I'm not ready to go there.
I don't have him in the playoffs.
I didn't figure you did, but DJ, he loves him some Royals for some reason. I haven't gotten to the bottom of this yet. But I think they'll be improved, but I think we still got a ways to go.
I agree, David. I totally agree. The Royals did get some good bargains for those guys. Maybe they're trying to catch lightning in the bottle. They didn't have to pay a whole lot for them, but you're right. We'll see. Is it last year's efforts or previous years? We'll see. They also did sign because they had Holland. They also signed the other reliever from 2015. I'm trying to think of his name.
Wade Davis.
Yes, they got Davis and Holland back in the fold in the bullpen. So they are trying to get lightning in the bottle from 2015 with that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I do like the rotation, DJ. I didn't go down that list. Brad Keller is in there. Bubic is in there.
Brady Singer.
Yeah, Brady Singer. Yeah.
First rounder from Florida.
Yeah. So they've got some guys, and more than that, they got some guys. 6 of their top 10 prospects are pitchers. And so, and most of those guys were college arms. So they're refined. They're ready to go. And so if I had anything to hang my hat on, if I'm a Royal fan, it's the fact that they're going to have a lot of pitching. And this is the year that that teams are going to need it. They're going to need 6 or 7 starters, and they've got guys ready-made to plug in there. And so that, if I'm a Royals fan, that excites me.
And Danny Duffy's not a bad starter from the left side. I mean, he'll give you some innings at least. He'll lead up some innings. So,
yeah.
Yep, there's the whole team right there. You guys did a great job mentioning all the guys. So, Dusty, as David already knows, I have a man crush on Witt Merrifield. I just really do. I love Witt Merrifield. I love everything about that guy. 9 bombs, 30 ribbies last year, hit 282 and had a 325 on base percentage. The great thing about him, man, is he backed himself into right field. He's a second baseman. But he said, "Yay, Nikki Lopez is ready to go. I'll play right field for the team." You don't see superstars do that very often. He's a superstar, man. If you lead the team and if you lead the league in hits for 2 consecutive years, you're a superstar. So this guy's legit, and he did that for Lopez. And Lopez is struggling to hit, no doubt, but he's a great defensive second baseman. And Witt definitely stepped up and was a great teammate by doing that. And so. I like their lineup. I really do. I really think that this is a strong lineup. They improved the middle of that lineup tremendously with Perez, Santana, Soler, and Benintendi hit 3 through 6. And then, the rest of those guys we'll see. Obviously, Merrifield at the top's a stud. So you've got pretty much 5, 6 guys you can rely on. The other 3 kind of iffy, maybe 4 guys that are iffy. And then you got some young pitching. So I don't hate their rotation, but I just don't know if it's enough to compete very much in the AL Central. And we'll get to that later on too. But Salvador Perez had an awesome year. Nikki Lopez is a local guy here from Naperville Central High School. He played high school ball there. And to be honest with you, Dusty, when he was in high school, he was not really thought of as a major league prospect. He was under the radar very much so around here even. We have a lot of great talent in the Chicago area that gets drafted and goes very far. And he wasn't really that high on anybody's list as far as, being in high school. He was struggling to be a starter there at Naperville Central, which is a huge school. But it's just amazing what he came from to go all the way to the pros. He's definitely worked hard. He's definitely always had the glove. And I like this team. I really do. I think they got a good lineup. They're definitely going to be much improved from 2020, no doubt about it. So,
DJ too about Nikki Lopez, then he went to Creighton, which is the 3rd best college in Nebraska, the state of Nebraska. So he didn't even go to a big power. Witt Merrifield was a South Carolina Gamecock, won a couple national championships. But Nikki went to Creighton, very not a big school, and did well. I mean, he plays hard. I've seen him in person a couple times play and stuff at Kaufman, and he's a good ball player. Same thing with Witt. In Kansas City, he's known as 2-hit Witt. If you see him at a bar or a restaurant around town, he's 2-hit Witt. That's what they call him. And I think you can be a winner and not be on a winning team. I just think he has a winning demeanor about him, a leadership demeanor, from what I've heard and stuff I've read out of Kansas City. Even though they haven't won with him last couple of years. I mean, he's just got that leadership quality. He just needs some help around him for sure.
So Dusty, who's your favorite Royal right now on the roster? Who's a guy that you're a big fan of as far as the roster right now?
I would probably have to say Witt, just because I've seen him come up. He's hard, plays hard. Again, wasn't a giant draft pick that they thought for sure was going to win. They gave him a really low deal, his first contract he had, and he just fights hard. I mean, he gets mad. They'll be down 11-0 to someone in the 7th inning. He grounds out, and you can just tell he's frustrated. So I like to see how he plays and the grit and stuff. And he might be a little underrated as an outfielder. He's really worked hard and has gotten better in the outfield for sure.
So David knows that last year on the podcast I played a song about Whit Merrifield. He can play third, he can play second, he can play the outfield, and he can steal your girl. So he can do all kinds of things. Whit Merrifield, man. There's a shirt you can buy online. It's called Cool Whit instead of Cool Whip. I highly recommend that you get that shirt, Dusty. Cool Whit, man. That's a cool.
He's smooth. He does those first 3 buttons undone. You can see his wife beater underneath it. He's got his chain hanging. He's a pretty smooth guy, I'll tell you.
I'm highly jealous, man. I'm jealous of Whit Merrifield. I'm not gonna lie to you, man.
I'm getting uncomfortable.
This went sideways. This went sideways quickly.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, David. So what do you feel are the strengths of the 2021 Royals?
Well, I alluded to it earlier. I love the young pitching. They've got several good guys in the rotation. Again, 6 of their top 10 prospects are pitchers. Several of those guys we'll see this year. A couple of them maybe not. Their number 2 prospect. They're still projecting him a year away, but again, he was a college guy, and you just don't know that they could move him up very quickly. But they've got a lot of good young arms, and whether those guys end up in the rotation or in the bullpen, it's a luxury that a lot of teams would have. So I would have to say I like their arms. Dusty,
what do you like about the 2021 Royals?
We talked about everything's a home run or a strikeout. I like their speed. Michael A. Taylor's fast. Whit Merrifield's plus speed. Alberto Mondesi, Nikki Lopez. They've got about 5 guys that are plus speed on the base paths and stuff. And, one thing about Matheny, he did do some small ball with the Cardinals. A lot of times the stuff he did was wrong, but I think he wants to try to do small ball and stuff. But I like their speed. You don't see teams with a lot of speed, but if you look down their lineup up and down, they're going to have some speed. And I like that. So.
Yeah, and I like Whit Merrifield. I feel like he's.
His background needs to be Whit Merrifield.
I feel like I really do like their lineup this year, though. I think it's much improved. I really think that they've done a really good job of improving offensively. I do think it's their strength. I really do. And you're talking about the speed, Dusty. That's a really good point. And you got Merrifield and you got Salvador Perez, who won a Silver Slugger last year. Man, these guys are definitely good. And Hunter Dozier, I'm a big fan of his as well. I really think a guy that can play multiple positions like a lot of these Royals can, they can play for me, man. Because if you're that guy who can only play one position, you're not as valuable as guys who can move around the field. And today's game has changed a little bit that way, as to where the more positions you can play defensively, the better off you are. I really like what the GM did with this offense. I think personally it's the strength of the team, no doubt. So on the other side, on the flip side, David, what are the weaknesses of the Kansas City Royals in 2021?
Well, DJ, I was going to choose your strength, which was the lineup, but I'm going to back off of that. I'm going to go against the grain here a little bit. I'm wondering about that bullpen, just to be honest with you. Now, they got a big year out of Holland last year. That was, I don't want to say it was out of nowhere, but it was definitely unexpected. He was signed on a minor league deal. Yep. Now Rosenthal is gone, who was kind of the second man in that bullpen. They have picked up Wade Davis. Maybe he can turn it around. But I don't know that I see a 3.84 ERA out of that bullpen again this year. I think Holland can be iffy in the back end. And if that were to fall apart, man, they're going to have a tough time, because I don't think there's anyone there right now to replace them. So I'm going to go with the bullpen.
Dusty, what do you think?
I think I would agree with the bullpen. I think, Holland, Wade Davis, I just, again, they're not going to be the 2015 guys. I did read a Kansas City insider a couple of days ago that said they think Rosenthal will be back with the Royals by opening day. They think they're going to re-sign him back from San Diego.
Yeah.
May happen. But again, I saw Rosenthal for years with the Cardinals give up some bombs. So, I mean, that's not a for sure thing either. I think a couple of those young pitchers, Asa Lacy, again, he was their 2020 first-round pick. I think he might be up this year, probably as a starter, but they could have a couple of those good young arms they put in the bullpen. That could short things up a little bit. They do have enough young arms to maybe put a couple in the bullpen. But I agree, a lot of age in the bullpen, and I don't know. I think one out of those three might have a great year. I don't think 3 out of 3 of those older guys will have a great year for them in the bullpen. Be very unlikely. So,
David, what do you think that my weakness is on this team?
It's not Whit Merrifield. I can guarantee.
Not Whit Merrifield.
It's whoever's backing up Whit Merrifield.
It is Mike Matheny. Come on. I cannot do the manager.
Let's just stop. I've got to ask a question here. I've not followed the Cardinals. I've not followed the Royals. But if I'm not mistaken, Mike Matheny has been a World Series champion. So how can you hate on Mike Matheny? Would it have anything to do with an ongoing grudge with the Cubs?
It has absolutely to do with the grudge with the Cubs. I can't stand him. I think he's stone-faced. I think he shows no emotion as a manager, which I absolutely hate about a manager. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think that in the 9th inning I want him making the calls on who's going to be coming in from the bullpen, what they're going to be doing offensively. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, and I think that he did a pretty bad job last year with the team in his first year. I don't think he's going to do a very good job with him moving forward. I hope he doesn't last there very long and they can get somebody else in there who can move this team to the next level, because they're getting there, guys. They're not there yet. I don't believe it, but they are getting there. They're taking some steps in the right direction as they keep going down this path instead of taking steps backwards like the Royals do. They can do some good things in the future, I think, and I just feel like he's holding back. And I'm a little bit worried too. I know you guys are pretty high on their pitching, but I just think that in this division, I think their pitching is probably 4th overall, which is a big problem. I would take 3 staffs over these guys right now in the AL Central, and that's a problem. That's a problem.
I got to pump the brakes here once again.
Let's see it.
You said the lineup was a strength. What lineup would you take the Royals over?
Exactly. I would, no.
Detroit.
I'll take them over Detroit, and I'll take theirs over the Indians. I will. I'll call that right now. I'll take over those 2 teams any day.
It's a pretty wide gap between my boys, the White Sox, and the Twins. And I'm still not so sure about the Indians. If they would add one more bat, I'm probably taking them, because again, I want to love this lineup. I like Dayton Moore. I like the Royals. But I reeled off the stats for the guys that they added. What there makes me think that it's really going to improve from last year? I mean, like I said, I want to believe in it. I like Carlos Santana. I hate Andrew Benintendi, but he's playing on a different team now, so I might learn to like him. Michael A. Taylor's never been any good. I don't know, man. I can't fall in love with that lineup. I just can't.
I get it. I just think it's better than, 2 of the other teams in this division. And I think that the pieces that they have added is kind of another, like I said, they're taking steps towards, hey, if we next off season, we get 2 more guys in here, and we add another pitcher, and we just keep kind of building this team slowly but surely, they can get there because they've taken the initial steps to head towards that direction. So I agree with you. They're not there, but they're going to get better. If he's committed to making this team better, I think he can make it happen. So, all right, guys, I'm going to read the list of the guys that have been added to the team this year. And I want each of you to chime in and tell me which one of these guys you think is going to make the biggest difference on the 2021 Royals. We got Carlos Santana. We got Andrew Benintendi. We got Michael Taylor. We got Mike Minor, Hanser Alberto, Wade Davis, and Irvin Santana. What do you got, David?
I'm really pulling for Carlos Santana. I like Santana. The Royals needed an upgrade there last year. I think former West Virginia player Ryan McBroom played a lot of first base for them, and I do like him. He was a Yankees farmhand at one point. But Carlos Santana definitely has the ability to hit 30, 35 home runs, and big, high on base guy. a great fielder to be as big as he is, to play first base as well as he does. He's a former third baseman as well. So I really like the Carlos Santana ad.
What do you think, Dusty?
As a pitcher, I'll go on the pitching side. I'm going to hope, again, lightning on the bottle for Mike Minor. 2019 All-Star. He was with the Royals 4 years ago and barely came out of the bullpen a few times. Had a resurgence in 2018 and 19. Danny Duffy's always been about the only lefty on the staff. It'd be nice to have another lefty if Minor can stay healthy, to give Duffy just that second southpaw in the rotation would be nice. So.
Yeah, those are good points. I'm going to go the Benintendi route. This guy, guys, I know he had a terrible 2020, which a lot of players did. But if you look back on it, in 2017, Benintendi had 90 ribbies, and 2018 he had 87 ribbies. So this guy has a lot of potential. He showed it there for the Red Sox there for a while. 19 wasn't as good for him, and 20 was atrocious. So maybe a new change of scenery. I heard that word a lot today when I was, studying up on the Royals. Is change of scenery for Benintendi is the thing that kept coming up, and maybe this is what he needed. A breath of fresh air, go to a different spot, go back to his potential. I think he's a really good ball player. I think if he steps up and he's a player that he could be, and with Santana, like you said, he can drive in 90 to 100 runs himself. So you added some big pieces there if they can come through and be them old selves. And that's just a question mark, is if these guys can kind of bounce back. So we will see what will happen.
One thing about Benintendi, he's a University of Arkansas Razorback, and he's got family members that live in the Kansas City area. So you talk about comfort a little bit. It's kind of like coming home a little bit for him. We'll see. He's got to produce, but maybe the comfortability will getting out of the pressure of Fenway Park and all. Maybe he'll come out there to Midwest a little more laid back, maybe, and he'll produce. So
awesome, very true. Key losses: Maikel Franco, who actually led the team last year, Dusty, in ribbies with 34 or 38. I'm sorry.
Did.
Alex Gordon and Franchi Cordero. Which one of those guys is going to be missed the most? David.
I'm going to go with Alex Gordon just for the leadership factor. He's been the de facto leader of the team for several years, won a bunch of Gold Gloves, and he has kind of been in a swoon the last 2 or 3 years with the bat. But just the leadership factor with Alex Gordon, I think they're going to miss that.
What do you think, Dusty?
I was thinking leadership, but I don't look like I'm copying, so I'm going to go ahead and say Franco. Besides the short year last year, he had a great 2019 too. I mean, he really, he can hit. The guy can hit. I don't know how well he fit in the clubhouse. I've read some things, but he would just show up and just hit the ball. I was amazed. Just raw hitter. He was a good hitter. I was really surprised. Didn't know much about him until he came to the Royals, but yeah. He did help him last year.
Yeah, he did lead the team. Here's the thing. This is something I wanted to bring up, and I'm not going to go with him. I'm going to totally agree with you on this one, David, and Alex Gordon. Just the leadership and the defense. If anything, he wasn't hit very much there, to be honest with you, anymore. But they didn't really lose too much off that team, so I'm definitely going Gordon here. There's a problem with Maikel Franco if he leads the team in RBI and gets the boot, and it's kind of under the radar. I mean, who even heard that he was gone? Like, it just kind of was just, he's out of here. He led the team in RBI last year, and this is not even talked about. And I think, Dusty, you made a great point. I don't think he's that clubhouse guy. They were not a fan of him in Philadelphia, and those fans will eat you alive if you're like that. So he didn't last there very long either, and he was gone out the door. And now with Kansas City, he didn't even last with the Royals. So something's wrong there with him. There's definitely something in the clubhouse. I really believe that 100%. You're exactly right on that. Hit the nail on the head. And if you go out there and you produce like that and you're a jerk in the clubhouse and you're not a good teammate, that doesn't go very well, and that doesn't go very far for a team who's trying to win and turn this thing around with a lot of young players. So he got the boot, and I think that they made a great move in doing that. So, All right, so now we'll transition, David. We're going to talk about the prospects of this team and what the farm system looks like, who's going to help this team this year possibly, and some guys that got down on the farm. Go for it, David.
So I've seen their farm system ranked anywhere from 4th to 10th. So definitely for sure a top 10 farm system. One thing that struck me by looking through this is a lot of their top 10 prospects are ready. Like in the next year or so, they're going to be up. The crown jewel of the farm system is Bobby Witt, who's a shortstop, and I think they're keeping that ready for him possibly next year. I don't think he'll be up this year, but a lot of great pitching. And the one guy I wanted to kind of spotlight is Jackson Cower. He was on the same staff with Brad Keller. So he's a college guy. He's a 33rd overall pick, I believe in 2017 or 18. And I think he's ready. He's been durable. They're saying he's at least a mid-rotation guy, possibly a top rotation guy. He's not the pitching prospect that you're going to hear him talk about all the time. He's not their top pitching prospect, but he seems to have all the tools. He's mid-90s with the fastball, plus changeup, working on the curve. So I would keep an eye out this year for Jackson Cower.
All right, Dusty, what do you got, buddy?
Well, a couple things. Well, one thing, they did lose their 8th-ranked prospect, Khalil Lee, in the Benintendi trade just recently. So you lose your 8th-ranked prospect, that hurts a little bit. But Asa Lacy, you're going to hear a lot about him. First-round pick last year. Rumors saying he'll probably be on the 40-man roster, maybe even this year. A couple outfielders, Edward Olivares, Nick Heath, a couple outfielders, and they're pretty good. They don't really have a spot in the outfield right now, but they'll be up in a couple years. But David's right. The pitching's the big thing. I've watched some of Lacy's tape. Just seeing clips and stuff of it. I think he's the real deal. I think he could use one more year in the minors. I really do. Especially last year being a real messed up, even minor league season after getting drafted. It really wasn't minors. He went to the double A preparedness team that they had at their stadium and pitched. But pitching is solid. I think they've got some good pieces. A lot of teams will keep their pieces and use them as trade bait. I don't think the Royals will. I think for the most part, they'll try to cultivate them all the way up to the big league team. Knowing they'll probably need several of them in 2 or 3 years. So, I think there's a lot to look forward to as far as their minor leagues. I really think this looks a lot like 12, 13, and 14 before they won the World Series and before they went there in 14, just overloaded with this talent. And then you saw some of those really hit it big, mostly on the hitting side in 14, 15. But I think they're set up ready to go for some future major leaguers in a couple years.
That is awesome. I'm going to spotlight Bobby Witt, guys. This guy is an absolute stud. The number 7 prospect in baseball overall. He's possibly coming up in September, Dusty. It's a chance, and I think they're more wanting to come up full-time next year with him, but he is bouncing up the chains. He's 6'1", 190 pounds, shortstop, and I hate to say it, but Mondesi, you're going to have to either play another position or this is your last year with the Royals, one of the two, because there's no way that he's going to be starting over Bobby Witt. This guy's that good. The son of MLB pitcher Bobby Witt Sr., who played 11 years with the Rangers. He was the 2nd overall pick in the 2019 draft. He's the real deal, guys. I saw a video today, and I'll have to show this to you guys. It was on Twitter. He took a swing, and some guy measured his swing at 141 miles an hour. Now, I don't know, man. That sounds really weird to me. Now, he did Happy Gilmore swing it. I'll tell you that right now. It wasn't standing still swinging. He did the Happy Gilmore and swung at 141. But that still is absolutely crazy. The bat speed he's got is out of this world. It's like world-class bat speed he has. It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe seeing that. But he is a 2022 full-timer probably, and Mondesi's gone. So this is the guy, I'm telling you. He's the real deal. And I really believe that, like you said, David, the Royals farm system's pretty solid, a lot of pitching. So you guys made great points on that, no doubt. So look for him to come up really well. I think he's a future all-star. He's a really good ball player. So David will transition here. What is your favorite memory all time of the Royals? Do you have any? I know this is a tough one, but is there anything that stands out in your mind about the best thing that ever happened as far as your memory of the Royals?
So there's 3 things that stand out in my mind. Really, 2 of those are players. So I grew up like Dusty, a George Brett fan. Again, he was born in West Virginia. I don't think he grew up here. So I was a big George Brett fan. And then in the early 90s, you weren't a red-blooded American if you didn't love Bo Jackson. And watching him hit bombs and break bats over his knee. I mean, who didn't have the baseball card with the bat and the shoulder pads on? And then one thing that I think is really cool about the Royals, they had the first super bullpen in 2015 that carried them to the World Series. And so I went back today, guys, and looked at that 2015 World Series roster. It's hilarious to me because there's really no ace on it. There's no like Hall of Famer type guy that's in the order. It's just a bunch of guys that were a great team. And like I said, they had that first super bullpen with Greg Holland and Wade Davis and I'm trying to think of that other guy's name right now. Kelvin.
Kelvin Herrera.
Herrera. Yeah,
he had a great year. They had Ryan Madsen on that team, who was a great reliever. And so those are just kind of some memories going back to the 80s, the early 90s, and then recently that I have of the Royals.
So Dusty, what do you got? What's your top memories of the Royals all time?
Of course, 2015 World Series, that was pretty nice. But a funny story about the year before when they lost in the World Series. Be careful the promises you make to your wife. So in 2013, the Cardinals were in the World Series against Boston. Save up my money. I'm going to go to the World Series game. I've never been to a World Series game. Save up my money, and I go to Busch Stadium, Game 3. The only game the Cardinals won that series. Yachty had the interference call at third. I was at that game. Pretty cool. My wife, I got home, and she gave me a hard time. You spent all this money. How'd you go to the World Series? And this was 2013. The Royals were not that great. So I said, here's the deal, Angela. I said, the next time the Royals go to the World Series, I promise I will personally buy you a ticket to go. Knowing they hadn't been there since 85. I've at least got 20 years before this happens. They go to the World Series the next year in 2014. So I have to give over hundreds of dollars for this ticket. Had to keep my word. So she went to Game 7. I didn't go. She went to Game 7. Of course, they lost Game 7 at Kauffman Stadium. Giants were just, that was their year. I mean, they were just going to win it. So that was just a cool story there. I got to go to the Cardinals in 13, and then she got to go to Game 7 in 14 at Kauffman Stadium. So pretty cool
awesome.
there. So
yeah, you really can't beat that. I'm very jealous that you've been to World Series games before. I've definitely never been to a World Series game. I don't care who was playing in the World Series. I would love to go and see World Series games. So those are some awesome stories, no doubt. And David, you pretty much nailed the three memories that I have of this team. The George Brett Pine Tar thing. That sticks out of my mind. Bo Jackson hitting a home run in the All-Star game off Rick Russell. That stands out in my mind big time too. And then the 2015 team with guys like Alex Gordon, Mike Moustakas, and Eric Hosmer. And like you said, David, you can call those guys stars, but I don't know if you call them necessarily superstars, and just a bunch of dudes, man. And that team won it all. And that's still to this day one of the coolest stories is them going so close in 14 and win it all in 15 is I'm sure Dusty, I had talked to, one of our other teammates that was a Royals fan, who we'll talk about in a little bit, but I wish I would have had your phone number at that time, man, because I would have definitely been reaching out to you, and how excited you must have been to finally see.
Yes.
Because I bet in 85 you were probably a little bit too young to remember that one. So this had
2 years old.
Yeah. Even I don't remember that one. I don't remember baseball till 86. So I was a little bit off. That was the last World Series when the Royals won in 85. That was the last one that I don't remember. 86 is when I started remember from. So none of us really remember that one. And it was really cool to see. So Dusty, talk real quick before we go to the stadium here. Talk real quick about who your favorite player was growing up on the Royals.
Definitely George Brett. I was always number 5 just because of George Brett. My dad loved him. I started loving him, and Brooks Robinson probably defensively is my favorite third baseman forever. George probably wasn't my favorite defensive third baseman. Just the way he hit, though. I mean, Mr. Doubles. I mean, he could just hit doubles. He hit singles. It didn't matter. He just choked up. He looked like he never took a practice swing in his life. Just walked up the home plate and just had such a smooth. Had so much tobacco in his mouth, his cheek is way out here, and he just could swing it. I thought he was like the Whit Merrifield of that day, just a cool guy. I mean, just a cool guy. I felt like so.
That's awesome,
and,
man. You were number 5, and I didn't know that was after Brett, but that's really cool to understand.
Yeah.
And I think they said, didn't Brett have a hit in 4 different decades? I think 70, 80, 90, and he had a hit in 2000. So I think he had a hit in like 4 different decades. It's pretty cool. So.
Hall of Famer, one of the all-time greats, no doubt. What a great guy he's still, to me, the face of the Royals. I really believe that.
Sure.
When you think of the Royals, he's the guy. And so transitioning now to the stadium, Kauffman Stadium, 1973 to present. I have not been to Kauffman Stadium. The waterfalls in the outfield have always amazed me. I love the look of that stadium. I'm looking forward to going to that one, no doubt, guys. And Dusty, you're right there, man. I would love to catch a game with you when I head over to that one for sure. And I just think it's a gem, and it's a hidden gem, and one of the ones that I'm looking forward to. Dusty, I'm about halfway through the ballpark challenge right now. I'm getting there, so
Okay.
Kauffman is actually close to me. It's like 8 hours, I think. So
Yeah.
it's not ridiculously far away. So I'm hoping to knock that one off the list really soon and go from there. But David, what are your thoughts? Have you ever been to Kauffman? It's on you now.
So I've never been to Kauffman. I love that stadium. I've actually driven by it twice on my way out west. And so I love the stadium. I actually really love the upgrade that they did, I believe, in 09 with the big screen out in center field to go along with, like you said, the waterfalls. I was reading a little bit about Kauffman. It was actually made built about the same time as Dodger Stadium. And so you can sort of see maybe some similarities there. But it's one of the few cookie cutter ballparks that has survived. But I love Kauffman Stadium. That's definitely, like you said, DJ, kind of on the bucket list.
Well, I'll say it sits right by Arrowhead Stadium. They share the same parking lot. I-70 runs right through the outfield. I mean, right behind the fence, you can see I-70. You can watch the trucks go down the road as you're sitting in the stands. It's pretty cool. You know, you were talking about, the stadium. It's the largest privately funded fountain in the whole world. It's the fountain. There's no other private fountain in the world that big. They're all public fountains, which is pretty cool. The family's just the Kauffman family. When they named the stadium, they did a lot of the upgrades. They designed it themselves architecturally, which is pretty cool. It's a cool stadium. Like I said, a lot of blue, kind of like Dodger Stadium, Swor. Just that color, the Royals, blue color. It's just cool though. And I've sat right behind home plate. I've sat at the very top of the stadium, and it's not a bad seat in the house. Even when you're on the top, you have a really good view of the stadium. It's just not that big. And so you've got that nice view. It's a great stadium. You can walk all the way around it across the outfield with the new fountains. They have a walkway now. So yeah, it's a cool place. Cool place. Been there many times. I love it. So I'd love for y'all to come one time and sit there with me.
And we'll do that, I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dusty, in an estimate, how many times do you think you've been to Kauffman in an estimate?
10 to 12 probably in my life. 10 to 12 times probably. And Bush, awesome. Bush about the same. Yep. So
very cool. So guys, with the 2021 Royals, do we have any position battles that you know of, David?
I don't think second base is settled, guys. Nikki Lopez hasn't been hitting. They brought in Hanser Alberto to kind of compete there. I'm also going to say this: don't be surprised if Witt Merrifield ends up back over there at some point. When they got some young outfield prospects. You got Soler, who you probably don't want in the outfield very much, but he could end up in that mix too. You can't have your second baseman hitting 202. So I'm going to say the position battle they have is at second base.
Dusty?
I think we might have some pitching battles in the bullpen. I think you've got too many really good young players. There may not be enough spots in the rotation. You may see a couple of those young prospects be put in the bullpen this year. So especially if Wade Davis, a couple of those older arms either get hurt, they fizzle out. I think you'll have a lot of moving around in the bullpen.
Well, Wade Davis stole a lot of money from the Rockies. He sure did, man. Wow. What an awful signing that ended up being for the Rockies. And maybe he can
those guaranteed contracts.
That was rough, man.
Didn't Wade Davis, he had a pretty good run with the Cubs, right?
Yeah, he was a closer there for a year for us, and he did really well. And then he got that big contract from the Rockies, and boy, did he just completely fall off the earth. You want to be a pitcher, you go to Colorado, you ruin your career. So bad move on his part.
You better make a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah. You better make a lot of money if you're going to Coors Field.
Yeah.
For sure, as a pitcher.
No doubt. So I also, David, you nailed this one on the head. Hanser Alberto, actually, in 2019, guys, he hit 305 with 12 bombs and 51 ribbies. So the guy can hit. Nikki Lopez is 2 years up in the pros. 2019, he had 2 homers, 30 ribbies, and batted 240. And then last year, 1 bomb with 13 ribbies and hit 201. So if he's not hitting guys, I don't think the defense is totally worth it. I love the thought of Witt going to second back there, and then you got more outfield prospects in this organization than you do at second, unless you wanted to stick Alberto there. So great point on all you guys on that one for sure. My trivia question, I'm going to ask both of you guys the same question, and I'm going to be very interested to see who can pull this one off. So, who is the all-time leader in Royals history in pitching wins with 166? Your options: A, Mark Gubicza; B, Paul Splitteroff; C, Dustin Leonard; or D, Larry Gura?
I've never heard of the other two guys, so I'm going with Gubicza.
Okay, what do you think, Dusty?
I was thinking Paul Splittorff. I think was who I was thinking maybe. So I've heard of him at least. The last one I hadn't heard of before. The last guy. So.
Dusty nailed it, man. Good job. That is that is so right. Say that last name again, because I don't even know who this guy is.
Splittorff, Paul Splittorff. I think he died of like a brain tumor or something, like a cancer in his head or something. But Gubicza, I remember at the end of his career, I think he went to the bullpen a lot. So I didn't know how many wins he picked up. But he and Gubicza were the only two I'd heard of the four, I think. So
that was a good point, man. Gubicza was a very good pitcher for the Royals. I thought that would be the one that I would throw in there to mix you guys up, no doubt. But I could not believe that Paul Splitteroff is a career leader in a team's all-time wins, man. That just shows you sometimes you've never even heard of a guy, and he's an all-time leader in wins in the Royals history. It's pretty crazy, man. So good job, Dusty. That was clutch. David, what do you got, buddy?
All right, so you guys better get this because this all happened in our era. The Kansas City Royals have 3 Cy Young Award winners. Can you name them?
Whew, okay. Let's go with Kevin Appier. The fart noises. Okay.
I know the face of one. I can't think his name. He's been with the Dodgers. He's been with several teams. Angels, I think maybe.
The guy you're thinking of pitching.
He's oddball. He's never talks. He's just a weird. Went to Milwaukee. Zach Greinke. Yeah, there you go. Thank you for the name there.
Kevin Appier. That kind of boggles me a little bit. Okay. Man.
It's going to span 3 generations, basically: 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
So
Greinke's your 2000s guy.
Yep.
Is Saberhagen?
Saberhagen, absolutely. That's clutch there.
He actually won 2.
He won 2. Yeah, Saberhagen's a man.
And the
I think I read somewhere he and George Brett were really close. Like they were really good friends. Like they hung out all the time together.
I can see that. The third guy was a Yankees hero as well.
Oh, David Cohn.
David Cohn. There you go. Yep. I got a funny story on Zach Greinke too, just in passing. I was listening to MLB radio the other day, and they talked about how weird he is and just different in the clubhouse. People don't know how to take him. And he's a phenomenal athlete. Like seriously, like he can do a lot of things well. He's a great hitter. Well, anyway, I guess I can't remember who the catcher was. Someone had signed there and was coming up through spring training, and he was catching Greinke. And after it gets done, Greinke just walks up to him, hands him the ball, and says, if I worked very hard at catching, I could be a lot better than you, and walks off.
Wow.
Yeah. He was just like, wow. So that's Zach Greinke.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Greinke is a weird dude, man. I'm not sure if I was his teammate. I don't know, man. I don't know. We'd probably fight a few times.
No doubt.
So,
Dusty, did you come up with a trivia question for us?
I did, and there's not multiple choice. Sorry about that. Which pitcher was the first no-hitter in Royals history? I'll tell you this. It was in 1973. Who was the first Royals pitcher to throw a no-hitter, 1973.
Can you give us any hints?
I'll tell you what, interesting. It was in April. This was the first no-hit. That was the first year of the DH. So it's the first no-hitter ever where the pitcher did not bat in the game.
Oh, wow.
First no-hitter ever that there was no pitcher that hit in the game. First year of the DH.
I'm lost on this one, man.
Steve Busby, which is interesting because he had a losing record for his career. Put him in the bullpen. He was horrible, but he has the first claim to fame. First Royals no-hitter and the first pitcher in Major League history to throw no-hitter and didn't bat in the game. So
that's awesome.
Pretty interesting.
That's a good
Wow, that was incredibly hard, though. that was good,
that would have been a hard one. You'd
That's
almost
kind of like the
heard
Paul
that
splitter
before.
off. Yeah. Ooh, Royals history is tough, man. There's no doubt, especially when you get past like into the 70s and
Yeah, it's hard.
Ooh. That's a good one though. Very good. All right, so projected finish, David. I'm really interested to see what both of you think this team is going to finish this year. So what do you think, David?
So I think best case scenario is the Royals become the Marlins. And like the Marlins did this past year, they kind of ride some hot pitching into the playoffs. But I don't think that's going to happen. That's just the best case scenario. I think they're going to be in fourth place again. I think they'll be under 500. They will be improved. They'll still be under 500. And they're going to be firmly in fourth place behind the Twins, the Indians, and who am I missing there? The Twins, the Indians. Oh,
White Sox.
the White Sox. So
They'll be in that order too.
No, it's going to be White Sox, Twins, Indians. I'm telling you, man, I'm an early fan of the Indians. Watch out for the Indians. MLB projects their rotation to be the third best rotation in the American League, DJ. The Indians.
Get out.
I love it. All they need is a couple players and they're in.
Oh, is that all? Just a couple players? All right, Dusty, what do you think for this team?
Well, I was looking. The baseball prospectus annual standings has them in fourth. Has them with 71 wins, which I will say this. I will say this, though. In the last 10 years, Baseball Prospectus has underestimated their wins by an average of 11 wins a year in the last 10 years, if you average them out. So let's say it's only half of that. That puts them at maybe 80 wins. You know, I'll say third in the division. I think the Indians could be really good. They maybe not be. I think the Tigers, they'll definitely be ahead of them, I think. I'll say third just because I'll give them a hope. I'll say third in the division. But they won't win the division. They won't make a wild card this year. Unless they decide to let every team in the playoffs this year. But if they don't do that, they won't make the playoffs.
Yeah, so you're giving them a little more love than I am too. I want so badly to get these guys higher than fourth, but I just can't.
Oh, we know.
I can't realistically do it.
Of all things. Future Hall of Famer Witt Merrifield.
Oh, yeah, he's on the track, baby. Yes, sir. If somebody wasn't holding him back from starting his pro career a little later than he should have, then he would have definitely been on that Hall of Fame path. But I'm going fourth. They're stuck in this role. This is going to be the third year in a row they get fourth. I just think the Twins, Indians, and I might finish a little bit higher than them. However, I wouldn't be surprised if they jumped ahead of the Indians at best case scenario here. But I just feel this team is heading in the right direction as well. I think that they've got potential to move forward in the future. I just don't see it happening this year. Fourth place for the Royals again, which is kind of like clockwork, kind of like the clock rolling around 24 hours in a day. So much the Royals will be in fourth place at the end of the year, just like they always are. So it's unfortunate, but I think they're heading in the right direction. So, all right. So now we transition, David. So we have two teammates that were Royals fans at Temple, and one of them is good old Jeffrey Buznitz. We love old Jeffrey B, our closer, one of the greatest closers in Temple history, no doubt about it. A submarine style pitcher, just absolutely nasty. And speaking of nasty, Dusty Childress too, man. We had some really good pitchers in our Temple days. There's no doubt about it. I'm really baffled that we didn't win more games than we did, to be honest with you, with all those arms that we had with all you guys, you two, and Jeff we just talked about. So David, talk a little bit just real quick about those two guys and their potential on the mound, how good they were.
So Jeffrey B, man, he's the hardest worker that I knew at Tennessee Temple. And so I don't know if people knew it. Jeff used to break into Engle all the time and to go run and that kind of stuff. And my freshman year, I wish I could have regained the work ethic that I had. You know, when you're a pitcher, you don't have much to do but shag fly balls, run, and throw every practice. It's a pretty boring life. And so it's kind of hard to get into that. So Jeff got me really into training that first year, long toss and that kind of thing. It was definitely my best year. But not only was Jeff a great teammate and a great athlete, but just a truly great guy. He went on to do some mission work in Indonesia. He had like a baseball ministry there, and just an awesome guy. I haven't seen him in several years. I caught him passing through Charleston actually about 10 years ago. So it was really good to see him. He still looks exactly the same. He was still involved in agriculture and farming. I think his parents had a huge cattle farm. So super guy. And I remember the day, I was telling DJ this last week, Dusty. I remember the first time that I saw you on campus. So, you know, the rumor in town was there was a new lefty. And I happened to be walking through Martin Dorm, I believe it was. And there were some guys just throwing some stuff around, like maybe a bottle or a sock or whatever. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember this thing go whizzing by and just being like, oh my gosh, like this guy is no joke. And then we show up to the first practice. And, you know, back in the day, the rumor was, hey, if you're left-handed and throw 90, you're into the majors or whatever. And so I just remember thinking, how do we have two of these guys at Tennessee? Like, how is that even possible? But I believe was the hardest thrower at Temple. I just remember you used to just rear it back and let it go, man. But great athlete. Would have loved to see you get a hit and all that. But we had an awesome rotation there for a minute at Tennessee Temple, and you were a huge part of that. And I actually remember, I don't remember what game it was, but you started one game, game one, and we won. And you came in and closed game two. Do you remember who that team was?
I don't. I remember doing that a couple of times. I either started or relieved in 2 games in a doubleheader. I think one time I came in like 4 games in a row in a week, I think, in pitched and relief. I remember that.
Hey,
I remember David, my friend. I remember David.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember my freshman year. What I remember about you pitching is someone came to me and said, hey, there's this guy who can throw like 12 different pitches. His name is David Swor. Like, he's made up pitches and stuff. And I remember like, man, what can you throw? And you were like showing me all these things. And I was so lost. I was like, all I know is a 4-seam fastball and a curveball. I remember like knuckle. And I mean, it was just all this crazy stuff. And you can make the ball move so much. I remember that about you, David. I remember that.
That's what you got to do when you don't throw hard. When you can't blow it by somebody, you got to figure out another way.
So, Dusty, I remember in inter squads, we would face off against each other. And I was telling David this all the time. I had one game plan when I faced you. And if you would have known how to get me out, you would have got me out because you were nasty. So I would sit on your 4-seam and just drive it. But if you were to elevate that thing, you would have struck me out. And if you would have threw me curveballs, I would have struck out too. But I sat on your fastball and was able to hit you a little bit somehow.
You hit me well.
My eyes and got lucky.
You hit me well. It must be all the pitching coaches that say don't throw high. I was throwing everything knee high. You smoked me. I remember it. Yeah, I didn't like facing you. That's for sure. So
DJ needs to hit with a 20-foot bat because he definitely like the old hack man.
I felt like my freshman year, DJ must have hit like 650 that year. I felt like he never got out.
Probably did.
You only had 4 hits that game, DJ. What's going on? I remember you always getting on. I remember that.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, man, you were absolutely nasty, man. So no doubt about it. We were excited when you came on campus. So Dusty, talk us a little bit through just for a minute about your high school and then how you actually got to Temple, how you transferred, and then talk about your pro ball, man. It shows yours.
Well, high school from a small rural town. I think Lebanon has about 10,000 people. I mean, we were second in state my junior year. We had a lot of guys go play college ball, a lot of community college players and stuff. We're just a rural kind of agricultural town. Football and baseball is all there is. So I was okay. You know, I never lifted weights in high school or anything. I think I graduated. I was probably 135 pounds. I think I probably threw 83 to 85, 80, 86 until my spring of my senior year. I finally hit the weights a little bit and put on a little bit of weight there. And by the end of my senior year, I was throwing 87, 88, a little bit more, 89. And, I actually probably even got faster at Temple my freshman year because we did actually lift weights. And you remember Coach Rogers, David? He came and helped and the bands and doing long toss. I'd never really long tossed before in high school. How I ended up at Temple, pretty funny story. My dad is from Lynchburg, Virginia, where Liberty University is, and actually played 2 years of college ball with Coach Hall when Coach Hall was at Liberty University.
Wow.
So they knew each other from college. So I had actually was going to sign with Division I school, Missouri State University, out of Springfield, Missouri. The Bears. They've actually gone. They've had a lot of first-round picks. Good school, really close to my hometown, and they didn't want me to be a starter. They were going to put me in the bullpen, and then my mom and dad were like, "I'd like to go to a Christian school. I think that's what we would like you to do, and if we're going to support you and all, that we'd feel more comfortable with that." So, Dad called up Coach Hall, his old college teammate, and talked, and my dad's like, "You think you have a spot for him? He's a lefty, throws mid-80s, or what do you think?" And my dad was really like humble. He's pretty quiet, and I don't think he talked me up that much. And Coach Hall's like, "Yeah, have him come down, and I like for him to throw, see the school, see what he thinks." And so we drove down to Chattanooga that summer, and I remember I threw, and I don't know where he'd gotten a radar gun. I don't know where Coach Hall had gotten it, but he had a radar gun, and I even forgot who caught me, but I came down that summer and threw, and I think I hit like 88 one time, and Coach Hall's like, "Yeah, we'll love you to come down. We got another lefty who's pretty good, and we got some good pitchers." And so came down, and I loved it. Y'all made me feel at home. I mean, I had never been to Chattanooga before, I don't think. And, the first year was great. My parents came down a lot. Second year, it just got harder being away from home. And finally I went to Coach Hall. I remember it was a hard conversation. I went to him, I think, in April, about a month left in the season, because I wanted to be able to talk to the guys and let them know before season ended that I was leaving. And I said, I want to go closer to home. My mom and dad can't come watch me, and I've got 2 years left. I wasn't even thinking minor league ball or anything. And so I said, I've got 2 years left. I want to go and go closer to home. So there's a Division II school, Southwest Baptist University, NCAA Division II, good school, good conference. We're a Division II conference, but my junior year, we were ranked the best Division II conference in the country. We had 14 guys drafted my junior year. We had 17 guys drafted my senior year out of the 18 conference. So wow. It's just a very good school. And then my senior year, 05, the Cardinals' second-round pick was taken from a team in our conference. Nick Weber, he's a 6'6" relief pitcher, made up to AAA, made 1 year with the Cardinals, and then that was it. He only played 1 year in the majors, but he was from Central Missouri State, Division II powerhouse. They won the national championship my senior year. First Division II team ever to have 9 guys drafted off their team in Division II. So just unbelievable team. So played great competition up there. I was 45 minutes from my house, so my parents got to see every game. So then I started my senior year, started getting a lot of looks. I played on they call an elite traveling team after my junior year. We played all over the Midwest. We actually went near Chicago, somewhere all up in Upper Illinois, went to Wisconsin. We played in Wichita. We played all over the Midwest. We were called the Slashers, Midwest Nationals. You've heard of the Midwest Nationals team. So I played on that team, and I pitched pretty well. I was 7-0, 8-0, 9-0 that summer, and a lot of scouts saw me. I pitched in the NBC World Series that summer and had a shutout against a team out of Colorado. So I started to get a lot of looks. And in my senior year going in, I met with a lot of scouts. And actually, Quentin Boyd, he was a Cardinal scout. He met with me and my dad and mom and had dinner with us several times. And I really was high hopes that the Cardinals were going to draft me. I mean, he was very, very high on me. The problem as a senior, you just don't have any leverage. They know you can't say no to them like a community college JUCO guy could, junior college guy could, a junior can. They got another year. When you're a senior, you're pretty much going to go whoever signs you. So the Cardinals, I think, were going to want to take me or sign me, but the Mets were another team that they came to all my games almost. They sent cross scouts there, cross section scouts, and I did private throwings for them, and they called me and said, "Hey, we want you to be a Met. We want to sign you. We're going to send you to the Appalachian League." It's funny. It is funny. I was in Chattanooga for 2 years. Hadn't been back to Tennessee. They signed me and sent me to Kingsport, Tennessee.
Yeah.
That was our Appalachian League team. And it was fun. I mean, it was a fun time. Got to the Johnson City Cardinals were 20 minutes down the road, so I got to see all the, get pitched against a lot of the Cardinals prospects. The Astros team was around there, the Twins. It was fun. I love the Appalachian League. Went to 2 spring trainings in St. Lucie, Florida with the Mets. Got to meet like Tom Glavine, got to meet Pedro Martinez, got some good autographs there. I got to watch a bullpen session by Tom Glavine, and I was about 4 feet away just watching him, being a lefty and all. And catchers down there, and Glavine's throwing 88 to 91, and he was later in his career with the Mets, and that was 2006. But I was watching, and it was amazing, not just hitting side to side, but up and down. If he missed it by an inch, if the catcher had to rotate their wrist at all, he was mad. He was like, oh, shoot, missed that one. It was just, I was just in awe of how he could just hit his spots just within an inch. I mean, it was just crazy. I'm lucky if I can throw a strike or hit the inside outside. And these guys, that's the difference in your minor league and major league guys. I remember going, they would invite minor leaguers to spring training games, and you'd sit on the bench, and every minor leaguer had a turn. And I remember when it was my turn, I went in, I sat on the bench, and I saw Pedro and I saw some of the guys, and I went into the clubhouse afterwards, and it was a buffet line like 80 feet long, every food you can imagine. They had chests of ice with every drink, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, you can imagine, just lined up. And I was like thinking, this is heaven. What is this? This spread they had. And one of the guys came out and said, "Oh, this is crap." He goes, "You should. This is just a spring training spread. You should see what the spreads look like during the real season." I mean, it's just those those players just live in a whole different world. But it was nice getting to see that kind of stuff and just be experienced to it. It jaded me from baseball for a couple years, honestly, guys. It's you see people get cut, your friends get cut after every spring training practice. You come in, if there's a ribbon by your door, it kind of was like the old Major League movie, the Major League, where there's stuff inside there. They'd come and get you and say, "Hey, you got to come talk to the coach." They'd go in, 10 minutes later, they'd come out. They're usually crying, and they're cleaning up their locker. And you just never know. Every day you come in, is your locker could be the one with the flag. I never had that flag, thank goodness. But it's just the reality of it being a business. In college you play for fun, you play for a scholarship, but just seeing it as a business, it was very interesting experience. Very different. I mean, you kind of see the behind the scenes stuff a little bit, but I loved it. I mean, those guys would play baseball. We get the stadium, minor league game starts at 7:00. We'd be at the stadium at 10 a.m., 3 hours of practice, go back to the clubhouse, take an hour nap, eat a sandwich, go back out again, BP. And then you play till 10, and then you have meetings, and you leave the stadium at 11:30 at night. So, I mean, it really is a 12-hour a day job every day. And, I've talked to Ben a little bit about his experience and he's told me, when he played, because we played 1 year at the same time. He was a year ahead of me, but, we just talked about how it's a whole new world. I mean, it's just crazy. Learning to speak Spanish, or 2/3 of your team, can't speak English. It's the communication, going back and forth. It's just, it's crazy. It's an interesting experience. Something I wouldn't trade for the world for sure, but very interesting. So,
Dusty, I always wonder about this. What was it like the day of draft day? So I'll be honest with you. I was an insurance agent then, just like I am now. And I remember I knew you were going to get drafted that day because I'd followed you there the college that you were at. What was it like when you got the phone call? Did you know going in that's where you were going, or?
It's interesting. You think you got a team in place. I was secretly hoping the Cardinals. I kind of thought the Mets would be the backup. And then I get a phone call early in the day. So I was the second day person all along. They're like, "You're probably going to be the second day. You're a senior." The Tigers had talked a little bit about like the 10th to 15th round, but almost all the conversation to be, "Hey, you're going to be 25th or on. I mean, you're going to be late. You're a senior." But I get a phone call the first day, and it's a number I don't know. And it's Baltimore, Maryland. I'm like, "Oh crap." So I answer the phone. "Hey, this is Dusty. And hey, this is so-and-so. I'm the Baltimore Orioles scout. I've been watching you a lot. We think we may take you in 2 or 3 rounds from now." And I think they were about at the 15th or 16th round. So I'm like, there's a chance I'm going to be taking the first day, which I'm like, that'd be cool. But then they never did. First day ended. Second day, of course, the Mets or whatever. Never heard from the Baltimore Orioles scout again. So I'm like,
Never mind.
take the time to call me. Never mind. I guess but it's interesting though. By the time you get to those days there were still 50 rounds. They've really shortened it now. But by the time you get to about the 38th, 39th, 40th round, you almost know, unless you know someone, you're not getting drafted, because the last 10 rounds are all favors. They're the kids of scouts. They're the kids of things like that. I tell you, a guy I got really close with in the minors was Daniel Murphy. Good hitter. I mean, he's had a good career. I mean, I think he maybe went with the Cubs a year or two, maybe DJ, but he was with the Rockies. Daniel and I don't know how many, we lived together for the first year, I think, almost the whole season in a host family's house. And I don't know how many times he would stumble in at 3 a.m. He would sleep on the couch. He'd be drunk. And now he has actually found the Lord. He's a very strong Christian now. But when he came out of the University of Jacksonville, he was everything but. And I tell you what, he would be dazed over. Wouldn't even take BP and then go 3 for 4, 4 for 5, hit a bomb. I mean, it was just, those guys were so talented. But Daniel was a guy I've actually kept in contact with a little bit. And the Nationals that kind of showed he's toward the end of his career. He's had some injuries and stuff. When he's healthy, he hits. Yeah. But I mean, playing with him was pretty fun. But yeah, David. When the Baltimore guy called me, I'm like, all right, sweet. And then it's just crazy. They keep putting names on and off the board. You just don't know what's going to happen. It's crazy. So
yeah. Well, we need Daniel Murphy on the show just in case you're wondering. And so
I don't know if he actually officially retired this offseason. Last time I talked to him,
we just talked about him last episode.
Yep. He had told me, I haven't talked to him probably a year and a half. It was before COVID, but he had said he thought this would be the offseason he would officially retire. But he turned a really Christian guy. He's actually doing a lot of FCA stuff. He's a big donor for FCA now and stuff. But that first year in the minors was an interesting experience living with him. It was interesting. So we joke about it a lot and stuff. But
next time you talk to him, you tell him he ruined my 2015 season with the Cubs by single-handedly knocking the Cubs out of the playoffs in the 2015 NLCS with 4 bombs and 6 ribbies in that series, and just completely destroyed the World Series chances of the Chicago Cubs in 2015. So I'm not bitter at all.
I know, not that you still remember, I know he took a lot of heat for his second base play, but a whole year in the minors, he never played one game at first base. He either played outfield or pitcher. I'm sorry, not pitcher, first base or outfield. So I don't know at what point in the minors he jumped ahead of me. Obviously, in the levels, went up quicker than I did. But he at some point they switched him to second. I don't know why they did that. Obviously, he regretted it in the majors. He had some bad games. So. Yeah.
Well, we would definitely love to have him on the podcast, Dusty. If you can somehow make that happen.
I will see what I can do. I'll see what I can do. I think his email I have is still active. I'll see what I can do. So.
And also, Dusty, I had another question for you too.
Yes.
So in 2006, you were 3-1 with a 2.61 ERA for the Mets in rookie ball there. So what happened to kind of sort of end your career in the minors? Like, how do you go from having such an awesome season like that to being out basically from the minor leagues? How did it all end for you?
Well, yeah, that was a really good year. That was my final year was my best year. And actually, I was pitcher of the year for the league twice in the conference I was in. Tore my rotator cuff. So, yep. I switched I was always a starter, just like in college. I went to the bullpen about a third of the way through that second season, maybe 2/3 of the way through. Oh, probably about a third of the way through. And, when you're used to pitching every 4th day, I went in the bullpen. The pitching coach came to me and said, here's the deal. Actually, it was Greer was his last name. I think Will Greer. He was the coach of Vanderbilt, head coach of Vanderbilt, and he went into minor leagues coaching. Here's our pitching coach. Good guy. He said, here's the deal. If you're going to make it anywhere past AA, AAA, if you're going to make it up, you're going to have to be a specialist. He said, you've got a major league curveball, but your fastball is 91, 92. He said, it's not great. You've got to get good at getting out lefties. He goes, I can foresee you maybe making it somewhere if you can learn to get a lefty out and be consistent with it, drop my arm angle a little bit. So my second spring training I was at, I did nothing but work on my delivery, lowering my arm, working on a slider. I did a slider, got pretty good with the slider. So that new pitch and the new format really got me some good numbers that last year, but my arm just wasn't used to it, couldn't take it. I mean, I would throw 3 or 4 days in a row. I'd come in and face one lefty or face 2 lefties out of 3 hitters. And, I think after I was 23 years old, I think after playing baseball for 20 years, 18 years pitching, and you're used to doing one thing and your arm gets used to resting and doing stuff like that. I don't think it took the wear and tear very well. And pitching every day out of the bullpen, it's tough. I respect it. I respect it because here's the deal. You see on TV the guys actually coming to the game. You don't see the guys. You go in there and throw 20 to 30 pitches full speed from the bullpen and then don't come in the game. They don't bring you in. You don't see that on TV. I mean, there's guys that get up 5, 6, 7 days in a row, and they would throw 20 or 30 in the bullpen, maybe come in and throw an inning. It's amazing, hundreds and hundreds of throws you do in a week as a bullpen. I mean, it's crazy, especially as a specialist. So, yeah, DJ. I think adding the slider, I think the things they wanted me to do really helped me. My numbers, I had more strikeouts. I think I had like a 6-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. I mean, did really well. Lefties hit like 120 against me that year. It was really good. I couldn't maintain it. I couldn't maintain the wear and tear. Had surgery on it as soon as the year was over. Rehabbed it all winter. Went back to Missouri, rehabbed it. Went back to spring training. Actually got there 2 weeks early in 2007 to try to see what I could do. My speed actually came back. I was actually throwing 89, 90, 91 again within 2 weeks at St. Lucie. But you know what? The curveball was just never there as well. I had such a good, I thought, 12-6 curveball, lowering my arm speed. It just didn't recover from the surgery very well. My curveball was not very good. It really would barely spin. And a lefty with just the 89 to 91 mile an hour fastball and no secondary pitch anymore isn't going to do very well. So I'm like, after spring training, I said, I'm hanging it up. They were going to put me in Savannah, Georgia for low A ball. Savannah Sand Nets was the team. And I just, I prayed about it. I went and talked to the general manager and said, I want to be released. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I want to be released. Went back to Missouri, set out about a month that year, the month of March, and just prayed about it. And actually, Ben Foster actually called me. He played independent ball up in, I think, Indiana. Was it Evansville?
Yep.
He called me. Wanted me to go. He and his coach actually both did a phone call with me and tried to get me to come start out there with them. Ben was retiring. He was getting married, so he was quitting. He was going to quit baseball. He was about to retire and be done. And I actually traveled out to Evansville and met the coach and talked. And I was Angela. We'd met in college. I was dating her. I'd actually started graduate school for biology, and I said, you know what, I know I'm not going to make it to the majors. I didn't want to do the independent ball thing. So that was it. So that was it. Like I said, it was a fun ride. It's a great deal. I added up in college. I think at Temple, I threw like 180 innings in 2 years, and I threw about 250 innings my last 2 years. So I was at 400 some innings, and then through with my senior year at SBU, and then I got drafted and went straight and pitched in the minors. I was at 230 innings just that year, 2005. And like I said, I think it was just a little too much on my arm, and like I said, the rotator cuff, it just never came back from it. So, yeah.
Well, man, you were definitely an awesome teammate and awesome player. It was just an absolute joy when you came on campus. We were thinking, oh my gosh, we're putting the pieces together here. We're gonna be really good, and it never really amounted as a team to anything. But man, we had a ton of great individual players on these teams that we had at Temple, and
I agree.
We always look back on that and wonder how we didn't kind of mesh with all the talent that we had over all the years we were at Temple. And you were definitely a big part of everything that we went through our junior and senior year. Me and David, man, it was great to watch you pitch every, fourth or fifth day for us and just mow them down. And sometimes twice in 2 days or whatever, we threw you out there, man. You were nasty. You were tough. Like I said, I hated having to bat off of you, man, and all that kind of stuff in inter squads. And it was just a great joy to have you, man. Those 2 years we got to know you, and you were always a joy. You were always in a great mood, man. And you always, that laugh you got, man, is contagious. It's something that I'll never forget, that laugh, man. You're just laughing right now. That's something that I always remember about Dusty, man. You never forget that. So just I'm completely, I was following you too when you were in the minors, and I was completely overjoyed that you made it. You lived our dream, man. There's no doubt about it. We would have died to just get one shot at the minors, and you got it, man. So congratulations on that for sure. You have a lovely wife and 3 beautiful kids now. So, and you're a teacher now. So just great on you, man. Everything's going well for you. We're completely excited you joined us tonight. We could talk forever, man. We could absolutely just sit on here for I think another hour and talk baseball, but we're gonna have to wrap it up here. And the Kansas City Royals, guys, I appreciate everybody listening to this podcast. The 4th place Royals is gonna be another rough year, but they're heading towards the right direction, so they will get there. And David, you got anything to add before we end this show?
I only got one question for you, Dusty. I'll make it short. This came up in the Micah Miller episode.
Oh boy.
Do you remember the ho-ho eating contest?
Yes. I think there may have been some added to those ho-hos, maybe, weren't there?
Well, there absolutely was. Yeah. There absolutely was some chocolate flavored Ex-Lax. And you were just eating them like a champ, man. Just shoving it down.
I was so gullible. I remember we went to Florida as a team my freshman year and went to the beach. I don't know if it was Cocoa Beach, wherever it was. And I was wearing like cut off jean shorts, didn't put any suntan lotion on. And I got my legs swelled up so bad I couldn't move.
I remember that. I had forgotten about that, but I do remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when we stayed in some complex too and pitched there, and I had to go pitch. And I remember I was hurting so bad. I was crying on the mound. My legs were like, I don't think I'd ever been to the beach before. I was like, I don't know what the sun's going to do to me. I was red. It was so bad.
Oh,
I was one gullible freshman, that's for sure.
Oh, that is awesome, man. So Dusty, once again, man, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come join us tonight. Hopefully, man, this becomes a every year thing. We can come on here and talk Royals with you. Have you on a little bit more than just once a year if you want to. We'd love to have you as many times as we can. And thanks again for coming on. And David, we got a couple more coming up next Monday, I'm sure. Teams to be determined, but we're kicking off the season with the Royals, and I hope all you guys are interested. Subscribe to our channel, please. Definitely do that as well. We'd love to have more people listen to the podcast. So, all right, if that's about everything we got. So we'll wrap it up for tonight, and good night to everybody out there.
Have a good night.